Hey there YouTube, Dr. Yash here. Welcome back to the shop. Not the fob, it's the shop this time. So, I mentioned in my last video about the centrifuge that I was going to be working on what is called black diesel, where you use waste motor oil in a mix with different solvents to basically mix it with diesel or gasoline or kerosene generally to make a diesel alternative fuel. So, like I said before, alternative fuels have been very interesting to me for a while, so finally getting the opportunity to test this stuff out, and instead of running it in the bus where things are expensive, you know, injectors costing $200-300 a piece, and you got 6 of them, and you know, fuel transfer pumps, and even the fuel filters are not the cheapest things in the world on that. You know, those cat filters are at least, I don't know, 30 something bucks. So they're not, you know, it's kind of high risk. You go throwing alternative fuels in it that are untested, or at least untested by you. This isn't a new idea. So I needed a test subject. So one of my test subjects that I mentioned before is an internal combustion engine. There are other types of test subjects that I have, but the main one, the first one, the most relevant one to the overall you know, idea of using this stuff is an internal combustion engine. So it's got to have a name, like everything else that I work on. So I've named this one Smokey Joe because he smokes. And I don't know, Smokey Joe's just got a good ring to it. So I'm gonna go ahead and flip this camera around, and I'll show you what we're talking about here. Alright, so you are looking at Smokey Joe. It is a diesel engine. It used to be a diesel water pump. It was a 4-inch water pump, you know, like a trash pump, big transfer pump. Well, I just wanted the engine. I don't have any use for a 4-inch water pump. So you can see I took that pump off and then replaced that with a hub to mount a V-belt pulley on that crankshaft. So it's going to be running an alternator, a large heavy-duty alternator, and it's going to be powering a 12-volt system, which is then going to run an inverter. So in essence, it's a big inverter generator that's diesel. So, of course, as if I hadn't said it enough, this is a single-cylinder, air-cooled, totally mechanical diesel. Very simple engine, almost crude actually, but it works. It works very well. It took me almost nothing to get this thing running. When I got it, picked it up used, of course. It's like a 2006 model. It is a Changfa 186F. It was actually the engine designation. It is a Chinese diesel engine. It is a clone of a Yanmar L100. So it's about a 10 horsepower diesel. And as such, I use the service manual for the Yanmar engine whenever I'm doing anything to this. As far as valve adjustments, I did do a valve adjustment on it. I did go ahead and do an oil change and clean the oil strainer on the side. You see the orange is the oil fill, quick get your oil drain, and then the black plug over there, you take the bolt out next to it. And it slides out. It's got a strainer in it, so it's full pressure lubricated. Yanmar first put these engines into production in '69. They actually had some military contracts for water pumps and stuff like that. So, and they were also used for military generators. So, they have a really good track record. And you know, honestly, this engine, even being Chinese, it doesn't faze me a bit. It runs just fine. I have used black diesel in this. And when I say black diesel, I took it to the worst extent you possibly could. You know, thank the Ford IDI guys for the idea, because they're the ones who said, oh, I just take waste oil and I dump it straight in the fuel tank of my truck. Well, that's exactly what I did with this, because I said, well, let's see just what happens. How bad is that? How long will this thing run without failing with just straight waste oil in the tank? Not filtered, not cut, not thinned, not actually black diesel, but just straight waste motor oil. Well, I've run it, I can't tell you how long. I've had this thing for a couple months now, and I've run several tankfuls of fuel through it. I mean, it's been dozens of hours running through it. Not really under a load, but up at full governed RPM, and just let it sit out there. I call it Smokey Joe because it is mechanical diesel and it was running on straight waste oil, so you know that it just blows a lot of smoke when it's, you know, when you rev it up. You can roll coal. You know, the Cummins guys will really like that one, or well, the Power Stroke guys will too, and the Duramax guys. But yeah, this thing rolls coal, a lot of coal, because there ain't nothing stopping it from doing so. Here's the injection pump, just single, you know, piston driven, camshaft actuated injection pump. I mean, it's fixed injection timing. You set the timing by shimming the pump in and out. You can actually, I mean, here's your governor arrangement here. Just a very simple set, or, you know, thumb screw type governor. The rack, you can actually manually run the rack. If you push underneath there, you can't really see it very well, but it actually it moves a pin inside here, and that's your throttle right here. Is just this little pin moving back and forth underneath that shutter. So shutdown is literally just turn the fuel off. It goes all the way over. So compression release, that's the only starting aid you get, is a compression release, because this thing's got about 21-to-1 compression. You pull it up to about top dead center, push that down, it wedges the exhaust valve open. You can give her a yank if you prefer. It's got a lot of, well, first of all, that flywheel weighs a ton, so it's actually a lot to get rolling, and you got to get some good momentum to get it to roll through that next compression stroke. But it's kind of a fun challenge. It still starts up pretty well. Pull started even on waste oil. It also is electric start. The old starter under there. So that's a nice feature on an engine like this. You know, with that much compression, 21-to-1 compression, because race car, it's kind of a handy feature to have electric start. So I have tested this down to like 26 or 28 degrees on straight waste oil, and if you got enough battery to spin it over that morning, it will start, and it'll start pretty easily. So the reason why I'm making this video, I did mention that you know, I had some issues with it. One issue today, it shut down on me. It took about 10 minutes to finally slow all the way down to nothing. It was starving for fuel, so I'm like, all right, well, probably clogged up the fuel filter, or maybe we're starting to damage the fuel system components, which are very inexpensive. That's why this is the test subject. This injector costs about 20 bucks to replace. That injection pump also costs about 20-something bucks to replace. So very low risk. So that's why I was playing with this. If we break it, that's almost a good thing, because yeah, you got to spend some money on it, but you're learning something. So things shut down on me. I went in to check the fuel filter, and lo and behold, the original problem was this thing. The one problem that kept it from starting when I bought it showed right back up. This petcock had a little piece of rubber down in there because the petcock gasket had swelled over the years. Like I said, 2006, it swelled a little bit. So I just poked something up in there and got some flow. So I got fuel flow, and everything was fine for months. And then all of a sudden, a little piece of rubber I poked out found its way back into the hole in that petcock. So yeah, it acted like a clogged fuel filter, but it was actually just a clogged petcock. So there was nothing else going on here. The thing was running fine. I figured while I had the tank off the top, I'd go ahead and pull the injector, clean the tip of the nozzle. Definitely was not that clean when I pulled it out. I'll be showing y'all another video. The next video is actually going to be me taking this injector apart. It's a Bosch style injector. Yanmar actually uses Bosch injectors. This is China Bosch. So we call it borscht. Some of y'all know where I got that from. Cheap like borscht. So anyway, that's you know, I did a valve adjustment, did oil change on it. It's really the only maintenance I've done to it. I've run it and just run it. Just let it sit outside and go at it. Just burning off that old nasty oil. So far, I've been pretty impressed with it. Needless to say, I think I've made that pretty clear that it's done very well for me so far. I can't wait to start really putting a serious load on this thing with, making some electricity with it. So the next step for that is actually going to be putting some filtered straight waste oil in it. It's like I said, I put unfiltered, uncut, unthinned. So all the sludge, all the moisture, everything that's in the waste oil as it comes out of an engine, and even worse, because a lot of it is stored outside, that's been run through it with no ill effects. The fuel system issues that it showed up today are not actually fuel related. So I was very happy to see that. I was like, wow, you just can't make that stuff up, can you? So anyway, I guess that's a good enough introduction for what's going on with this old guy, old Smokey Joe. So, you know the deal. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.